Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution.
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 You want a revolution?
You say you want a revolution?
Revolution. The revolution.
It's going on right now.
Welcome to The Revolution, the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we ask today's most successful entrepreneurs to share the tools and strategies they use to build relationships and connections to grow their revenue. Now, your host for The Revolution, John Corcoran.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here, and I'm very excited today because I'm the host of the Smart Business Revolution podcast, and I get to talk with CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs of companies and organizations like YPO, EO, Activation Blizzard, LendingTree, OpenTable, Act Software, and many more. I'm also the co-founder of Rise 25, where we help connect B2B business owners to their ideal prospects. But usually when I'm doing those interviews, they're not live, and I don't get to take other people's questions. But today we're doing this one live, which is always fun. So I'm going to try and take questions as we're doing this, as we go along. And I'm excited because my guest today is Gina Rubel, who's the founder of Furia Rubel Communications, which is a leading national public relations and marketing agency, helping top businesses and law firms with high stakes public relations, reputation management, crisis planning, and incident response, including high profile litigation, media relations. Never more relevant than it is today, given everything that's happening in the world today as we do this live in near the end of March 2020, and we have the coronavirus pandemic, which is kind of unfolding and upending all of our lives, including my own, which is why I have my 3-year-old over in the corner here is trying to, hopefully going to stay quiet during this while we do this. So also Furia Rubel has been named #1 legal marketing agency by the National Law Journal and by the Legal Intelligencer in the areas of legal marketing, legal public relations, crisis communication, and social media. And that's my background as a lawyer. So I'm interested to hear about how Gina has made that into a company. First, before we get into that, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25 Media, which I co-founded with my business partner, Dr. Jeremy Weiss. And our mission is to connect you with your best referral partners and customers. And we do that through our Done For You podcast solution. I believe if you have a business, he's keeping himself busy over there. If you have a business, you should have a podcast, period. One of the best things I've done. You can learn more at rise25.com. So first, Gina, first of all, thanks so much for being here. It's an honor to have you. And I wanted to take your advice here a little bit on how businesses should be responding, what they should be doing with their customers, how they should be communicating, given these historically unusual situation that we're in. How do they even approach what we're doing right now? What should businesses be thinking about?
John, it's interesting. There's been this wave kind of coming from both sides of the country. Both coasts are pretty much shut down, and now it's starting to ripple into the center. And how we were communicating a week ago is different, at least on the coastal cities, than it is as we are this week. The time for crisis planning has passed. Now it's assuring, reassuring clients, customers, and employees about where they stand. I think one of the things I have found a little off-putting is the language business as usual. It's not usual. This is not usual for any of us. And it's business unusual. And even, so many firms or companies are afraid to say, we're all dealing with this too. Rather, it's we're up and running and we're fine and everybody's working from home and we've got your back. And that's the reassuring message, but we're not fine. And we're all learning to navigate these new waters for as long as we're going to have to together. And there is uncertainty. And when you start to see the messages that have the empathy, I'm finding that people are responding better to those, because the richest, the wealthiest, the most popular, they're getting hit too. This isn't a virus that only hits a certain population. Everyone is at risk, and anyone and everyone is going to be facing the same challenges of being and I don't like using the word quarantine, because you're not quarantined until you actually have been either diagnosed or exposed. But we are in stay-at-home mode throughout the country.
Right.
And so we're all there. We're all facing the same things. Address that.
Are you seeing a lot of companies how are they saying it? They're just saying business as usual, we're up and running, we're fine?
It's not so much that, but, we're working as business as usual. Everyone's working from home, and it's just that there's a tone about it when it needs to start with, we understand that we're all in this together.
Right.
And while we are working from home, there may be some delays in our response.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. And it's really the first unprecedented time where it has been okay to show empathy. It's okay that your 3-year-old is behind you today. It's okay that my dogs are outside barking. I mean, it's just what it is. This is where we are. And it's not just you, it's Ellen DeGeneres. It's every
Jimmy Kimmel, all the late night shows. It's humanizing in a sense,
It really is humanizing, and it's for the people who are very used to the traditional corporate communications that are perfectly structured. And I have a friend who works at a company who was told that they have to wear business casual for their internal employee Zoom meetings every day. And I thought, really? Like that
from the waist up, right? Or waist down?
That was the joke online. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And you think about that. You have to wear, I knew we were going to be taping today, so I put on a nice jacket. I'm in jeans and sneakers. Let's face it.
Yeah.
And it's that idea that we have become humanized, and this is real, and we're all real people. We all wake up a mess. Nobody looks perfect in the morning. And if you're sitting there and you have to get down on the floor and play with your 3-year-old, you're not going to be in a 3-piece suit.
Right.
So it's really the empathy and the quality of the way we present ourselves. That being said, I am enjoying creating a better routine within the confines of what we're dealing with, so that I feel productive throughout the day. So I get up, I get on my Peloton, I shower, I put perfume on. I'm sitting here by myself. Nobody smells it but me, but I feel better.
Yeah.
And
that really is I've seen a number of people advise that just psychologically, don't stay in your sweats all day. Don't stay in your pajamas all day. Psychologically, it's going to do damage to, actually getting dressed, actually taking it seriously. I took my kids down to the waterfront near my house, and, we were running around throwing rocks and stuff like that, just trying to get some fresh air and exercise, a sense of normalcy, And then another thing that you've written about, talked about, is the importance of pausing unrelated content. I'm sure everyone has seen this. I've seen emails that have come out. I've seen, Facebook ads even, or people sharing content it's just unbelievable. Like they're like as if nothing has changed. The world is the way it was a month ago. And that's probably when they scheduled it to be posted.
Right.
Yeah.
Reviewing scheduled posts at this time is critical to not coming off as tone deaf. And we've all received them. And I think the receiving audience is going to be a little bit more forgiving as well right now. But it's really important to understand that stuff needs to be paused. On the other side of that, I did a podcast interview with the editor-in-chief of American Lawyer Media Global Brands a few days ago, Gina, and she said, interestingly enough, while coronavirus content is top of mind for everyone, they still do want to be getting information about other things happening in businesses and from the legal field. And I am hearing that from other members of the media as well. So while it's not necessarily the time to say, hey, look, we promoted 10 people this week, because that will fall on deaf ears. If you're doing something different, if your company is giving back, if you have found a way to be more productive in your work from home universe, if there's some information that you can share as a business with a greater audience that's going to help them to weather this storm, by all means, reach out to the media. So understand you can still, it doesn't have to be completely all coronavirus all the time.
Right, right. And I assume that goes for communicating with your clients as well. I totally agree with that. I found myself some days just craving other news, something having nothing to do with coronavirus, because otherwise it's just debilitating, and it just is totally overwhelming, and you can spend too much time on it. What else? What other advice do you have for companies that are seeking to communicate effectively in today's unusual circumstances?
So we're in the response mode right now. We're not even talking about recovery yet. We don't know when that's even going to start. So in the response mode, be prepared if you're a small business owner, what happens if you get sick? I wrote a blog about that last week, and that was the hardest thing I ever had to write because I had to face my own mortality. And that's tough for us, right? We are healthy and young, or at least we think we're young.
Yeah.
So that was tough. But so think about that and make sure you have someone, even if you're a solo, have a power of attorney for your significant other, have something ready to go. For bigger companies, mid-sized companies, be prepared for that communication that's got to go out that says a member of our team has COVID-19. Be prepared with your message that says a member of our team has passed away, especially for bigger companies. You have greater risk, you have more people. Right. So,
how do you communicate it to the rest of the members of your team? How do you communicate it to your clients, to the rest of the world?
Yeah. I mean, these are tough times. These are tough messages. Nobody wants to hear this. It pains me to have to say it. These are the types of things we actually put in crisis communications plans because, I mean, let's face it. What are the two things that are truths? Death and taxes, right?
Right. Although this year the taxes are a little postponed, so
even taxes are postponed. Well, I'd like to postpone my death by another 30 or 40 years. But that being said, we know those two things to be factual. So even in your typical everyday crisis response plans, we address what happens if somebody dies. But now,
I'm just realizing right now that you mention it, how much reassuring that would be if you have a company and you're faced with that horrible situation where maybe a key member of the team has passed away, or even if they've just gotten it and you need to communicate to everyone, to flip open to the plan, and be able to, here's the messaging, here's the message that we need to send out. That's got to be so reassuring to not have to, okay, how do we communicate this? How do we reinvent the wheel here?
And marketers are being taxed. They're exhausted. They're working 24/7 in their companies, their firms, to prepare these things while we're still being responsive to client, media, and employee needs. So it's a tough time. It's not an easy time by any means. But we can also learn from this. And I'm a big proponent of saying that there's opportunity in crisis. And
I think that's a nice message right now.
Yeah.
You don't want to think that you're, capitalizing on it, but I think a lot of companies need to hear that right now, because there are a lot of companies that need to reinvent their business plan virtually overnight right now, if it's not working, and so they need to realize that you can pivot and you can create opportunity out of it, whether it's reinventing the business plan or just some other type of opportunity, which might have been what you were referring to.
Well, it's that. It's so, for example, we've really ramped up. We've been working with you, frankly, to launch a podcast, On Record PR, and we've ramped up our efforts because it's more important now than it was 3 months ago for us to have another vehicle to communicate. And that's, and working with you has been a pleasure on that. Thank you for all your guidance.
Of course. Thank you.
That's one of the types of things, but also really thinking about what else have we learned?
Yeah.
What have we, as a country, learned? What have we as a company learned? And what could we have done differently if this were to happen again? And that's really, and now's that if you have downtime, use it to your advantage. There are opportunities. Do that one thing on the maybe list that you've always been thinking about doing. I mean, yes, we cleaned our closets. I cleaned the whole house this weekend. Everybody else I know cleaned their whole house this weekend. But what else? What about investing time in your business during downtime so that when this is over, you're prepared to come out of it with a gusto, and that's so that's so
critical. I keep hearing that over and over again. I interviewed an investor yesterday who was talking about that. He said, really what's going to make the difference here is, we're going to come out of this just like we did out on 9/11, just like we did after 2008. We're going to come out of this. And the difference between the companies that are going to emerge and going to thrive and the companies that are going to emerge and going to struggle or maybe not emerge at all are the ones who are remaining really disciplined and focused to executing on a plan and not freaking out and following through on that plan. Personally, I've been an advocate. You got to double down on your best relationships. Absolutely. I think that's the best thing you can do. Keep those relationships strong. It's what's gotten me through previous crises and career ups and downs and things like that, is just keeping those relationships strong. So I encourage people to do that. I encourage you to do it, whether with a podcast or something else. But yeah, I totally agree that you got to be, as you said, disciplined and following through on a plan.
Have to be resourceful and know that we will get through this. We're not going to get through it unscathed. And, I, as a small business owner, need to come to terms with that myself. I'm such the eternal optimist. And it's interesting because even as a crisis communicator, trust me, I have my days. My husband will tell you that I have my days. But we're going to get through this. And now is a really great opportunity. Our team at Furia Rubel has ramped up the blogging efforts substantially. The content is all about answering questions that people have and providing useful resources and tools. And now's the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. That's what we're doing right here, right? I mean, we're sharing, helping others to the extent that we can with how to cope with these historically unusual times. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up? I know you're incredibly busy, so thank you so much for carving time out of your busy day.
What I would say is keep your heads up, be prepared, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. We're going to get through this together, and know that both I and John are always available on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and our websites just to answer questions or to be a resource.
FuriaRubel.com, FuriaRubel.com to learn more about Gina and what she does. Anywhere else that people can go to learn about you, Gina? LinkedIn, obviously.
LinkedIn, obviously, I'm here. Gina Furia Rubel. It's my married and my maiden name. And on Twitter, of course, or Instagram. I'm pretty much on every platform, although don't bother with Snapchat. I'm not very good at that one. I have teenagers, and then they give me a hard time about it.
I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank Brendan over here for keeping quiet. Where is he? There he is.
Where's Brendan?
Where is he? There he is. There he is over there. He was amazingly quiet. I can't believe that he actually was quiet the entire time. So
adorable.
We're doing our best. So Gina, thanks so much. Thanks, everyone.
John, stay healthy.
Thank you for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast with John Corcoran. Find out more at smartbusinessrevolution.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list and join the revolution.
Revolution.
And be listening for the next episode of the Smart Business Revolution podcast.